Welcome to the LCCC round two. We're still in round two? No, round three. Round three, we have Zan versus Lorcana Villain. How are you guys today? Good afternoon. It is me, Create AKA Adrian. Some of you might know me as Rip Lungs. I am a Lorcana competitive and content creator. And today it's actually just me casting. Just me casting today. Seemed like there were a lot of people busy today, but I mean that's how life is. We all have work, a lot of stuff to do, but no worries. I am here to give you guys the full entertainment. Since I do make YouTube videos, I am already used to talking to the camera by myself and pretty much just talking about Lorcana. I love talking about Lorcana and I love watching Lorcana. How are you guys today? Super awesome to be able to have this opportunity. Shout out to Pavel, shout out to Pixelborn, shout out to all the viewers at home, everyone on social media who has been supporting the LCCC. We are also, again, playing this for charity. All the pro players, all the players in the event are playing towards a charity that they all decided to pick. And at the end of the match, I'll go ahead during the interview, let the players talk about their charity. So shout out to everyone at home watching, welcoming in. Hello, hello, how are you guys? So yes, today we have an awesome match. Let me just show you guys the match right here actually. We have Zan versus Baker, aka Lorcana Villain. I am lost for words right now because these two guys are awesome. These two guys are part of Lorcana history. If you guys don't know who they are, well, let me go ahead and show you. So we actually have Zan right here, who is the winner of DLC Vegas. Multiple tops at DLCs. And just in case y'all weren't aware, Zan this past weekend actually won the CCQ with an OTK Spicy Monstro deck. Yes, Zan, a player at his caliber, his level of skill, of course, he was able to take this type of deck that is very hard to pilot, especially in a very competitive scene. I mean, these tournaments, the CCS over there, it's just full of very good players. So being able to take this deck and win with it, getting his invite, it's just super awesome. He definitely deserves it. Shout out to you, Zan, for getting your invite for the Continentals this year. But it's not just Zan representing the NA team. We have Mr. Baker, aka Lorcana Villain. He is also participating in the LCCC. Who does not know who Baker is? Just in case you aren't aware, Mr. Baker, aka Lorcana Villain, is a content creator. He's been in the YouTube scene, Lorcana scene since, can't even recall, probably since the beginning or even before the game came out, right? Just already talking about Lorcana, talking about news, talking about the game. So super awesome to see Mr. Baker here playing in today's event. Zan's list is super spicy. He is playing Blurple. He played Blurple last round and he made some changes. Me personally, I actually like how Blurple is adapting right now in the meta. I know towards the beginning of the sets, and even like if you know from a few weeks ago, Blurple seemed to have just kind of disappeared. It was still low key. There were some people messing around with some new Tamatoa iterations, but here we see Zan basically coming up and saying, "Hey, Blurple is a very good deck. You know, Blurple actually won the CCQ. No, won the DLC in Singapore, if I'm not mistaken. So Blurple, just a super consistent deck, right? It has all these strong Amethyst cards, like the Cherished Cat that just came out this set. Sorry if I butchered that name. It has Demona. Demona, basically Blurple. Who gave Blurple a dock now? Blurple now has a dock and an Elsa in one card. When this card comes out on the board, it exerts all your opponent's characters and you get to draw 3 cards. But your opponent gets to draw those 3 cards as well. But a deck like Blurple, who is pushing the board, usually when they play this card, they're already at the advantage or they're just finding their removal pieces. And everything else here seems pretty staple, right? You have the Dumbos, you have the evasive package, you have the 1-drops that are super good to contesting the aggro meta right now. I do like the inclusion of Hades. If you notice from last round, Zan wasn't playing the Hades, but I think this card is just too good not to run, right? You put it on the board and you force your opponent in an awkward spot, right? Because you either force them to draw 2 cards or they have to remove their character and lose tempo. So a very, very spicy card that in this list with the Tamatoa as well, right? The Tamatoa package, getting those junior guidebooks. They're not playing, well, I know some lists are still playing second star to the right, but I think this item is just way better being able to recycle it with Tamatoa, being a Sapphire player and playing Infinity format. Tamatoa just feels so good to be able to recycle these items and get back this draw power. So Blurple just got a huge upgrade, has very strong ways to counteract on the draw, even has way more better efficient ways to be able to answer threats on the board, and their consistency, their draw power, it got a huge upgrade. So super spicy list. I can't wait to see Zan in action today. But he is going against what some people would say could be a 50-50 matchup, good matchup. Right now, personally, I don't know, because Mr. Lorcana Villain playing his Ruby Amethyst. Of course, it's his Ruby Amethyst build. That's what he's known for, right? His spicy Ruby Amethyst. There's no B prep in here, though, but it's okay. He doesn't need B prep. He doesn't need B prep. Why? Because Ruby Amethyst right now in the current meta is also in a very strong position. It actually just won a CCQ 2 weeks ago. Shout out to the Loungers, who one of them were able to take it down. I actually faced against him the other day, and we had a crazy match. I was on Sapphire Steel, and he got me. He got me, of course. He's a CCQ champion. So congrats to him on getting his invite. And today I think was his name. But yes, Ruby Amethyst right now in the current scene, it's just so strong again. Why? Because of Amethyst. Amethyst, these purple cards are just have so much power, just being able to draw cards, being to have these having these evasive characters, being able to contest the board really early on. And what Ruby Amethyst got this set compared to last set is it got a little bit more lore pressure, right? What I do like about this build, it's kind of similar to what Amethyst Steel does, to where you're curving out, but you're applying more pressure through lore. And there's also these cards that help you punish your opponent if they decide to combat you back, right? So you have these Demonas in here. I think this card's insane. Being able to be swing for 6 and then have 6 willpower is just crazy. You know, he's also playing the Demona. He's playing this one of Spicy Hercules. This Hercules card is super annoying for those of you who aren't aware. This card can only be dealt damage if it's being attacked into. So when he's attacking, or sorry, when he's challenging, he does not take any damage. If you try to sing a song on him and deal damage, it's just not going to work. Also, when he's exerted, your other hero characters get that same effect. So super crazy. I like that this is a one of. The Horseman is a new legendary card that came out in set 10 Whispers of the Well. Me personally, I love this card. I think it is a very balanced legendary. It's uninkable, it's 5 cost, and it has 2 good effects, right? This is what I love about these certain cards in Lorcana, is when they have these very balanced effects, these cards that work with the deck as well. So Horseman comes onto play, he gets to banish something with 2 attack or less. So being able to snipe in, you know, against Sapphire Steel, these Vincenzos that come out with 2/8 stat line, questing for 3, being able to just remove that from the board, that's just such a huge plus tempo gain. And then Horseman's second effect, when a character is banished, your other characters get +1 challenge. So that also stacks, right? So this Ruby Amethyst builds now have way more better ways to combat the board and do more effective trades, so they can get off their, you know, sneaky lore. And then worst case scenario, they run out of cards. They have the Dumbo, they have the Genie, they have the Demona, they have the purple cards, the Amethyst cards, to be able to combat. So here we go. I believe here that is Baker on the left, and we have Zan on the right. Super exciting to see. I think they're doing their mulligans, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they're doing their mulligans. And I guess Zan's going first, right? Because whoever decides to do their mulligan first should be the player going first. So he's keeping Develop Your Brain, Ramp, Dumbo, and Elsa. This is a very strong hand, just the curve that you have here. I think what Zan is looking for, sending back these cards, is probably a 1-drop to be able to play after you sail to contest the board. And we do see here he draws an uninkable. That's fine. He has the T-bow just in case his hand gets a little awkward. He can go ahead and ink that Hades. So we do see Mr. Baker also doing his mulligan. I believe he sent back 5. Had the 1-drop, had the Diablo, so probably looking for a turn 3, turn 4. And he did get it with the cat. So he also has a very nice curve. Now, let's ask ourselves, what do we need here if we were Baker, if we were Mr. Villain? What do we need to be able to combat Blurple on the draw? Well, first things first, the whole idea of being able to out-aggro them, you could still do that, but it's a little bit greedy because you're on the defense, right? Zan's going to be the one attacking first, being the one to basically make the first play. So Lorcana Villain is going to have to maybe play a little bit more defensively, not focus too much on let me try to get as much lore as I can. But I do think that having the Palace Guard into Diablo is going to be a super nice early setup, just because Zan's not going to have a efficient way, or at least a clean way, a fast way to be able to remove that Palace Guard unless he draws the staff. But right here, we do see the players ready to go. Both made their mulligans. Honestly, both these players have really good hands. Lorcana Villain having a very good hand on the draw, and we have Zan having a really good hand on the play here. So the thing is, what do we ink here? And if you do go with the curve, you might want to consider keeping the Hades. You know, me myself being a Sapphire Steel player, a lot of people ask me, well, how do you balance being able to, you know, ink your higher cards when you're deciding? So when you're playing turns ahead, it might seem okay to be able to be like, oh, I have a uninkable Hades. I can play this Tipo, ink away the Hades. I'm not going to need it. But what are you going to do the turn where you want to play Hades and you don't have a card like that, right? So those are some things to consider. And I do like Zan considering the fact that, hey, I'm going to need an answer when I get to this ink, to the 7 ink, and the Hades was already in my hand. He already has a bunch of other inkables in his hand, so best case scenario, he can just keep drawing inkables and he should be fine. So he does activate Develop Your Brain, and he gets the Ink Runner. I love this card. I'm personally playing one copy of it in my Sapphire Steel builds. There's just so many evasive characters right now in the meta, so being able to give any of your characters alert and be able to challenge evasive characters is huge, right? Imagine giving that to a Tinkerbell, or imagine giving it to a Hades, for example, to be able to knock out, challenge a Dumbo. So very nice card. So now Mr. Lorcana Villain is going to have to decide what he wants to ink. Interesting. He does decide to ink the Sisu, which you might think is, hey, that quest for 2. Don't you want to play that? Don't you want to gain a lot of lore? I think the cat's going to be way more effective because you want to be able to punish Zan just in case he does any challenges. So we do see here Zan draw for turn, and it looks like another Tipo. Can't be mad at drawing these cards at this point in the game because you don't want to see them in the late game, right? You want to be able to see your weak cards early, be able to ink them, and then play your big cards towards the end of the game. So we do see here Zan play the Sail, inking away that Hades, and just passing turn. Yeah, it's just very unfortunate that he doesn't have a way to answer this Palace guard. So this is a very nice one-drop character that Villain was able to open up with, because this is going to get at least 4, 5 lore, maybe, because not even an Elsa can come down and challenge it and remove it. So we do see here a Dumbo going to the Inkwell, not going to need that right now, and a Diablo coming down to give that 2 lore. Very awesome. I actually think I have the names of the players here that I can add just in case the viewers back home need to see here. So we do see Zan go ahead and draw for turn. Very nice. And the thing here is, what do you want to play? And I think now, since you don't have a Genie, which is a card that you would have really wanted to see, I think here he's going to, ink the Ink Runner. You're not going to need it right now since you have other clean ways to answer evasive characters. And we do see the Dumbo come down. One of my favorite cards. I have a love-and-hate relationship for this card just because the effect is basically like a paragraph. Dumbo gave me nightmares. He gave me nightmares from last set, all the draw it could get. But it's super easy to take out if you have the setup for it, right? So we do see here Baker draw for turn, and now he has to decide what he wants to do. Oh, there you go. I was like, wonder where the name is. Let me go ahead and just tilt this real quick. And just fix this for you guys, just in case people back home don't know who's on what side. Awesome. Oops, wrong way. Bear with me, guys. I'm doing this for the people just in case they don't know who's on what side. There we go. And alright, so while Baker's deciding what he wants to do, let me go ahead and actually add Zan's name in here as well. I want to give you guys this top quality production, okay? Here we go. All right, there you go. Easy peasy. I forgot I had their names. All right. Quick, do it real quick, real clean. All right, we're back. Back to the action. Alright, so we do see here the cat being played, like I mentioned. You want to be able to play this card to punish any challenges, right? Being able to move damage around the screen. Around the screens. All this OVS got my words mixed up. Being able to move damage across the board is very strong. You just punish trades that happen. It's kind of interesting to see a lot of Amethyst builds take out the bell. That was Bell's accomplished, that was able to do basically the same thing that the cat does, but it's on play. But the fact that you can boost every turn and activate it repeatedly, I mean, and with the deck space, yeah, the cat is just way better. So we do see here Zan play the Hades, and we do have that awkward position where Baker had to decide, okay, do I give up my cat or can Zan draw 2 cards? And I think here, with the Dumbo already established, it's going to be rough giving Zan, 3 cards. It's basically what you're doing. So here you give up the cat, and I like this because Zan doesn't really have anything too crazy on the board. You could say that Dumbo is pretty scary because that's going to let Zan keep having the gas that he needs to be able to put pressure on the board and just draw cards, because this is a battle of resources. Amethyst decks in general, when they're doing a mirror matches, it's all about who can draw more cards, who can have the more resources, who can out resource, right? And you want to be able to make sure you have cards that draw in the mid to the late game. Potentially, these type of games can go on for a while because both decks have very clean ways to answer each other, right? Zan does have the Hades, which I do think is going to be that one-shot removal key that is going to be way more effective than what Villain has, because although the Horseman does accomplish the same thing, there's not that many targets compared to what, well, I mean, Hades can just target everything, right? So here now, we have this Lonely Palace Guard that I told you was going to get or sneak away with some lore. So we do have here Baker deciding what he wants to do. The problem is, Zan's getting, or I mean, Zan's already at that. He was already at that 5-ink threshold, but he's gonna be able to, if he has it, play the Elsa, right? So if the Elsa comes down, the Dumbo and the Elsa can take out the opposing Dumbo, and that's where the cat comes in, right? The cat would have been able to punish that play, move damage either from the more than likely would have moved damage from the Elsa to Zan's Dumbo and banish it, right? So here we just have a quest that finally this Palace Guard actually can't get taken out because the Hades only has 3 attack. So Hades only being able to challenge for 3 still can't remove that. Palace Guard's gonna get another lore in. So we do have here Zan draw for turn. What did he draw there? Oh, a Basil, another card that you don't want to see anymore. That's kind of what happens, right, with these 1-drops. You just have to run, 4 copies of these 1-drops to counteract aggro strategies. And it is unfortunate if you draw them in the mid game, but hey, best case scenario, you can just use it as ink. So here, Zan draws. Did he draw? Oh, he drew another Basil. Hey, you can't be mad at it because he already has the answer for the Dumbo, rather than him not having one and then digging for it. And sometimes you have to play to your out, so unfortunately, Mr. Lorcana Villain couldn't play around that. He just had it. If your opponent has it, they have it. So we see here, interesting, decides to leave the Dumbo. Wow, this is actually a very nice play here because he's basically saying, hey, I don't mind if you draw a card because I'm at a better position than you are. I have more board presence. I have more cards than you. I have pretty much the advantage right now. So you being able to draw 1 card, there's no more be prepared. So what's the best thing that he could draw? And honestly, I think the best thing he could draw is probably because he can't. I would say, oh, it looks like we lost Zan there for a second. There you go. It's normal in here in the LCCC for some technical difficulties, and I mean that in a good way because it's just crazy to have this type of production, this type of tournament. It's North America, Europe, having players across the world playing against each other online. It's just super awesome. It's really cool to see the community show up and see some high competitive gameplay like this. All right, looks like we're back, and Baker's still deciding what he wants to play on his turn. He has the Elsa that he could play to take out the opposing Dumbo, which I think is probably your best case scenario because you cut Zan off his resources and he still has to trade back into your Dumbo. Oh, I do like this play actually way better. You get to remove the Horseman with Elsa, and now you can't get the... Well, you do have 1 ink left, so you should be able, if you wanted to get an extra card off the Dumbo. And it's kind of hard to say if you want to just challenge into the Dumbo, because now you're cutting each other both off. And Villain does have the Demona to be able to refill his hand. The problem is, though, is you want to play it when you're ahead, and you don't want to play it when your opponent's going to get the advantage. More so when you have more ink that you can play with, you're able to use that more effectively. So we do see here Zan draw the Tamatoa, no items in the discard right now, so that card is still going to be kept in hand because he's definitely going to ink that Basil and slam down that Hades to remove that Horseman. It does feel kind of bad though to waste that, but I mean, hey, you remove some bodies on the board, you get rid of that lore, and you get to put yourself at 2 quester and remove something. I think Hades is one of the best cards in the game. I just love this card being, even there was a time where throughout the sets it stopped being played, and I love now that after rotation, Hades is just in all the blue decks, just a very strong removal card, super clean. Definitely love this iconic card, iconic villain. And now back to the villain himself, facing down two Hades, and villain has some options. So let's think about this. The cat can't really do anything this turn. You could set up an Elsa attack and then the following turn move some damage with the cat, since you'll have enough ink to be able to boost it and use the effect. If you play Demona here, you only draw 1 card, so you really have to empty out your hand here to be able to use Demona more beneficial on your end rather than just giving your opponent the cards that he needs. And now, like when I'm in these spots myself, when I'm playing, I'm thinking, okay, best case scenario is I just need to put bodies on board and my opponent just draws bad cards. The thing here is Zan already drew like 4 bad cards, so now he's likely to just draw at least better cards than the ones he was drawing before. So if I'm villain here, I'm thinking, okay, I need to put out, you could put out the cat, right? Because the cat, same thing, the Elsa can come down the following turn and you can do the same thing, or you put the Elsa. Like you have to ink one of these cards to be able to benefit off your Demona. So it looks like he said, hey, you know what, I'm gonna draw 2 cards here and give you 2 cards, rather than, hey, if Zan emptied out his hand, he's gonna draw 3. Oh wow, villain drew the same cards that he inked and played. Very interesting. They're good cards, but right now you need a little bit more pressure. Hoping maybe to have seen a Diablo, something that you could have played with this 2 ink to be able to stabilize and at least put more pressure on the board. So we do see here villain pass, and Zan here saying, hey, thank you for the 2 extra cards. My turn. Now, again, I'm still thinking if I'm Baker, hopefully he draws bad cards. Now, these 2 cells, oh man, these are good, very, very good cards, although you already ramped. Being able to just draw a card in this point of the game, thin out your deck, it's just a very strong card. So he's going to activate that and then draw an extra card. And this is just perfect, right? Zan's like, hey, I have this genie here that can come down, start putting my own lore pressure on the board, and still draw another card. These Amethyst decks, again, you pair it with either the Sapphire being able to draw multiple cards and have this very nice ramp package, effective cards that are removal like the Hades, or you could play the Amethyst package with Ruby, have a little bit more early board presence, fight the board a little bit more better against wider decks, but both just showing how powerful these Amethyst cards are. So Zan still has a couple ink to play with. He did activate that cell, so if he wanted to, he could play, he could ink twice, which is, he's gonna activate, he's gonna use the last 3 ink and slam down this cat. You want to be ink efficient. What that means is you want to be able to use all the ink, use all the resources effectively, efficiently. That way you're not missing out on anything that would cause you to win the game faster. So we do see here Zan saying, hey, I'm going to quest. Go ahead. Your move. You're going to have to answer this big board. Now Zan is down to 1 card. So we're kind of back to square one. We're back to where, okay, Zan needs to have bad top decks. And I need to start clearing this board. The cat is going to make a huge difference because you're able to move damage around the board. So again, Zan now saying, hey, I have the cat, I can punish you. Now, villain has his own, so he can play it. Demona could challenge and remove the Hades, if I'm not mistaken. Or he could also play the Mother Gothel. So the Mother Gothel also moves damage when you do challenges. So this card, I like when cards make math, right? You have to take all that into consideration. You have to think, hey, how can I answer this board without just going point and remove? you're gonna have to consider challenging. You're gonna have to consider the damage. You're gonna have to consider how can I be effective with moving this damage. So here, Villain deciding what he wants to do. I know for sure he doesn't want to refill Zan's hand. You got him down to 1 card. Baker doesn't know though that this is a genie. So this genie's gonna come down, draw another card, and put some more lore pressure on the board. And just in case for the viewers at home didn't get to see the list, I do have this list here on the bottom left of the screen. Just 2 very, very spicy lists. Just these deck builders are just very, very clean. And I love seeing these lists. This is what I love the most about the LCCC. Every week, players deciding if they want to change their list, taking it, adapting to the meta. Very awesome to see this. And just in case for you guys who weren't aware, we do have another game tonight. I will be streaming it. It's going to be at 10 p.m. Central Time or 11 p.m. East. And we do have the 3rd match of the night. It's going to be Mr. Thiago versus Ed. 2 NAs battling it out. Trust me, you guys are not going to want to miss this. This is going to be 2 very high skilled players, just like the players that we're watching, just like the players in general in this LCCC. Go at it. Their decks are super spicy. It's going to go down here on this channel later tonight. So turn on the notifications. Go ahead and hit that follow. You don't want to miss any LCCC action. So back to the game. We do see here Baker play the Mother Gothel. That Mother Gothel, is going to ink the... Interesting. He's going to decide to ink it. I guess he wants to play the Elsa. I guess he could still do the same thing with the Mother Gothel, because when the Elsa comes down and challenges, the Mother Gothel could move some damage around. So here, Villain counting out his ink. He's thinking that this is the best case scenario, or at least, I'm sorry, this is his best case action that he could do here. Plays the other Demona and says, hey, you know what? Have more cards. I'm going to start taking stuff out, and this Mother Gothel is going to help me survive a little bit better. And, I don't mind, because you have to play to your outs. I do like that Demona could take out the cat on Zan's side, so trading here doesn't feel as bad. Zan did draw another Hades though, so having another removal card is going to be good, but he would have to waste all his ink, or at least 7 of his ink out of the 10 that he would get next turn if he decides to ink. And that's okay. I actually don't mind that. If you can play around your opponent having Hades, right? You think to yourself, hey, he's going to Hades, remove something on my board, but that's going to take up his whole turn. And Zan doesn't have, Blipper players don't have cards that cost 3 ink for the most part, other than the cats, I guess. So if he doesn't draw a cat, all he's going to be able to do next turn is play the Hades. So we do see a clean challenge and a banish. Send that cat to the discard. And we do have here Villain saying, hey, your turn. I did what I could, thought about it, and it was super clean. And now Zan drawing a guidebook. I love this card. I really, really, really love this card. It's basically just costs 3 ink and you get to draw 2 cards. It's an item. Very, very nice card. Being able to make Tamatoa viable again to at least a certain degree is super nice to see. So Zan now thinking what he wants to do here. He's saying, alright, Baker has 2 strong Demonas on the board, and if I attack into it with either of my characters, they're also going to get traded, right? Just because of that 6 attack that the Demona has. You do have a couple options here. You could decide to draw cards if you wanted to. Why not? Get a couple more options. Getting Into the Unknown wouldn't be that bad of a deal. So decides to play the Genie, draw a card. And looks like it's another Elsa. So Zan here, if I'm not mistaken, already went to 3-4 Elsas. So he's going to decide to play the Elsa. And if I was Zan here, I'd be thinking, okay, I need to be able to remove characters on the board because I don't want things to get out of hand. I don't want more Mother Gothels. I don't want more Lumières. I don't want more things that Baker can put on the board. So here he decides to just quest out. He's saying, hey, you know what? I'm just going to race you because I know you have no wide board removal. And he has 3 evasive characters on the board. Baker only has that one Elsa in hand. Well, he does have the 2 genies, but anything that can attack the turn that it's played with just the rush effect is just going to be the Elsa. You do have to wait a whole turn for the genies to be able to swing. And now, basically, Zan's on a 2-turn clock because he is threatening 2, 4, 6. Well, he's threatening 18 lore right now, currently on the board. So not game yet, but he does put Baker on a 2-turn clock. And he's basically saying, hey, it's your turn to challenge me. I don't really care too much about your Demonas. If you're going to spend your turns challenging my board and not questing, that's what you're supposed to do when you're on the draw. And that's what you want your opponent to do when they're on the draw. When they're playing defensively, right? When they're not playing on the offense. And Baker right now, he was able to sneak some lore early on, but Zan had the right tools that he needed to combat Baker's strategy. So we do see here a genie come down. Nice. We do see here this very strong 2 action card. You're actually able to mess around and do some damage to some stuff. And you get to draw a card. So, unfortunately, those Demonas could not exert because he did have more than 3 cards in his hands. So, punishing. Couldn't even challenge. Because that Elsa came down and tapped the Demona. Super nice play from Zan there. Basically saying, hey, you can't even challenge my stuff. So now I'm putting you on this 2-turn clock. And we do see the Elsa come down. Elsa's going to knock down that genie. And you really still can't answer really anything. Zan only going to 18 lore the following turn. So you have to be at this point, you have to be thinking, okay, what's the best case scenario I can do here? And at this point, you're just trying to survive, right? You're trying to just survive and start challenging things. You need to clean up this board. So we do see an Elsa coming down and is going to challenge something. And now Mother Gothel's going to do what she does and move damage around. So basically taking out that genie. Elsa did 2 damage into it. And she was able to move the damage off the Demona onto the genie. And genie already had a damage, so taking it out. Now that's 2 lore down. So now Zan's only threatening 16 lore. You got 1 evasive character down. You're gonna have to ink one of these cards. And you already wasted 9 cards. You already wasted your 9 ink there with the genie and the Elsa. And this Lumiere is going to be able to come down and help Baker challenge the board next turn. So, I don't hate it. I actually love it because this was just the best thing that Baker could have done to be able to just clean up the board, contest a little bit better. These 2 Demonas are going to be able to restand, unexert, and challenge next turn. But Zan does have 2 evasive characters, so same thing as Baker, so he's matching that evasive power. And Zan draws another cat. So the one thing I was talking about, he drew it. He drew the 1 card he could play along with the Hades. Oh my gosh. Being able to do 2 things in 1 turn as a Sapphire deck is super good because you have that ink available to do it. So putting on 2 cards on the board. Oh, this is going to be the tempo that he needed. And really, this is what we're seeing right now, right? We're just pretty much just seeing Amethyst cards versus Amethyst cards, and then their opposing colors are really just supporting it, right? Baker just has the Ruby support, helps with challenges, helps with trades, and Zan has the Sapphire support, helps with a little bit more removal, helps with a little bit more consistency. Now Zan is thinking what he wants to do. How can he maximize his turn? How can he utilize all this ink that he has here? Alright, let me go ahead and move this logo a little bit down. There you go. Perfect. So Zan here is thinking, okay, Baker does have a lot of guys. There's going to be some damage moving around next turn. I have 16 lore on the board. Can I put game on board while also answering stuff on his board? And I think you can. I think you can ink probably the Elsa, unless you wanted the Elsa to come down and do a challenge. You could play the cat, and the cat can't do anything this turn because with your other ink, you're going to slam down that Hades. The Hades could take out a Demona or the Genie, because the Genie is going to be the other evasive character that helps. The Mother Gothel, you could argue, because it does help move damage on the board. So basically, it's basically giving Baker's characters a buff when it comes to challenging, if you want to think it like that. And I think you want to keep the guidebook just because you want to be able to draw cards just in case, worst case scenario, you somehow, Baker is able to climb his way back and he's able to stay in the game. And you want to make sure you have the cards that you need to draw and continue finding the cards that you need to be able to stay in the game. So Zan here finally deciding to make a move here. And I do love that these players calculate. They think about their plays, right? They think you have to think turns ahead. These are what these competitive players do. They think turns ahead, and thus get that guidebook off. So deciding, hey, you know what? There's still not really no pressure on my end. I do like the fact that he drew that into the unknown. So now he basically has 2 removals he can do. So he basically got to do 3 things in one turn, where I was just saying he can only do 2 things. He was able to play the guidebook, play the Hades, and if he wants to now, he can sing and use that into the unknown. And that might actually seal the deal just because of how much you were able to do on one turn. The advantage that you got is insane. He was able to draw more cards, remove 2 characters if he wants to use that into the unknown, which I don't see why you wouldn't want to. Being able to just clean stuff on the board, removing ways that Baker can come back and fight. And does decide to send that Genie away, because that Genie is going to be the character that can help challenge back these evasive characters. So now the Elsa deciding to... It looked like he wanted to double... Oh, yeah, he's going to sing it now. I would assume on the Demona with no damage. Yeah, takes that out. And at this point, the Genie and the Elsa could take out the opposing Elsa. Or you could just quest out. And he decides to just quest out and say, now you're definitely on a 1-turn clock. If there's no way for you to answer these boards, enter my board, and remove this lore, then I have you, right? And we do see here Zan with 2, 4, 6, 8 lore on the board. So let's break it down. If he is able to answer the 2 lore questers that are there on the board, the Hades and the Genie, that still puts Zan's at... Oh, that will put him at 19 lore. So if he can take out the Hades and the Genie, he still has a chance to fight back. It's going to be a mountain to climb, but it's not over until it's over. So now Baker has a lot of math, a lot of thinking to do here. Plays down this Genie. Let's see if we can draw another card, maybe something that can boost the attack. The Demona is not going to quite do it. You could bring down this Lumiere. Give the Elsa +1 challenge. The Mother Gothel can move a damage, so the Elsa can take out one of the Genies. And then the Demona could take out the opposing Hades. So that is your way to clear up that lore on the board to sort of keep yourself alive for another turn. But is it enough? At this point, once your opponent gets to 18, 19 lore, you just have to have an answer every single turn. If not, your opponent just runs away with it. So we see here Baker deciding what he wants to do. That's probably the best case scenario, unless I'm not seeing something here. I'm assuming that might be your best play. You need to remove lethal on the board. You need to remove your opponent from going on a story and questing and closing it out. So we see here another Genie. Let's see if we can here draw more cards. That Mother Gothel is pretty spicy. It's basically, again, Lumiere, right? But now he can start moving 2 damages and have basically do it twice, and it's 2 damage now. It does cost 1 more ink, so Baker does have 12 ink. He would have to ink a card in his hand if he wanted to play the Mother Gothel over the Lumiere. Oh, did I math wrong? 4, 8. Sorry. That's 11. That's 11 ink. So he does decide to ink that Demona. At this point, you cannot give Zan any more cards. And he's going to slam everything out on the board. I did not math right. Very bad at math. I do apologize for that. That's why I play Sapphire Steel. So we do see here him slam down his whole hand. And now this is where I told you guys, this is where the magical numbers, the moving around of damage counters is going to be the main sauce of this Ruby Amethyst build right now in the current meta. I do know some other builds in Ruby Amethyst don't really play these Mother Gothels. They're just more fast, low to the ground, trying to get as much lore as possible in the early game. And this is a little bit more defensive, a little bit more mid-rangey. I like both these builds. And I like this build more particular into aggro matchups like Cormorcon Dogs or even lower to the ground decks like Amethyst Steel. So now Baker, his head right now is going off like Blue Lock, trying to see all the pieces in his head right now, trying to see how he can survive and take down Zan's board. And even after you take it down, you do need to think of your following turn, and you're going to have to answer Zan's stuff. So we still see here Elsa taking down the Genie, swinging for 2, moving the damage with the Mother Gothel. Interesting. And now you have to take out something else. So you have to take out that Hades. You need to get rid of that 2 lore. The only card that could do it here is the demo. I guess you could use the Mother Gothel because you could do 1 damage plus 2. 1 plus 2 is 3, 4. Oh, you just take out the Hades. Yeah, you take out the Hades and you take out the other Hades. And now you leave Zan only with 3 lore that he can gain the following turn, putting him at 18. So finally, the Mother Gothel, if I'm not mistaken, is challenging or questing here. Yeah, it looks like he's challenging because he wants to move some damage off of one of his characters. And I love these type of interactions because it makes you think really hard about the challenges you want to do. Some other Gothel taking damage into the Hades. Interesting. Not sure if that removes it because you can only attack with your Demona. I would have assumed he would have attacked into the other Hades. And then this Demona just challenged that Hades. Because Demona could have removed it either way. Unless I'm getting something wrong here. It is a lot of calculations. It is a lot of things to think about. That doesn't have evasive, right? So that can only hit... That can only challenge the Hades. I think the correct play here was for the Demona to challenge the Hades and then the Mother Gothel to take out the other Hades. Unless he wants his Demona to have less damage on her, less damage counters. Deciding what he wants to do here. Because you can only move 1 damage, right? So you can't even take out the Elsa. Oh, you can move 2 damage, but you can't even take out the Elsa. He might be considering it for the following turn. Like he wants his other characters to be able to attack into his opponent's characters. Or challenge into his opponent's characters, excuse me. The only other thing you could have done was just take out the other Hades. So here's Zan. Finally says, alright, you did what you did. Nice move, buddy. But it's my turn. Let me close this out. Baker's going to need, I guess you could see a top deck. Do have some top decks in the chat. We do have those top deck emotes. Let's get some top deck emotes in the chat and see what Baker can top deck here. A Be Prepared, maybe. A Be Prepared might be what he needs. Now Zan here, not greedy, not just automatically making a move, still calculating, still thinking, okay, what or how can I lose here? How can I lose here? How can I get punished if I play greedy? It's pretty hard to get punished here, right? There is a lot of damage counters that could be moved next turn. A lot of math on Baker's side of the board. So you really have to decide here, okay, if I do quest out, or if I do want to talent anything, how can I secure that I have victory the following turn? Because at this point of the game, this is the end game. You need to close out the game already. You cannot let the Ruby Amethyst player try to crawl back. Because for whatever reason, if Baker is able to survive, he has a lot of lore pressure on the board with those two genies. Do you see here the Cherish Cat come down? Cheshire Cat, sorry. I don't know why I kept butchering that name. The Cheshire Cat come down. And man, Zan just top decked this cat, I think, like every other turn, right? Like this is the best thing that he could have top decked in this scenario, being able to just clean up counters on his board. Yeah, like this is what I meant, right? Earlier, he drew the T-pos, he drew the Basils. So now it's just good cards that you could potentially see. Interesting. And he does play the Elsa, so just having all this extra ink, you being able to utilize it effectively, putting more lore pressure on the board, and basically these two characters are basically pseudo removal cards. Like, it's Elsa and Cheshire Cat. Put one lore on the board, and their effects help you remove characters on the board. Two very strong Amethyst cards. Zan turning his card sideways and saying, hey, if you have it, you have it. Let's see what Baker can top deck here. Best case scenario, a Demona and Zan draws nothing, and Baker can just draw out the cards exactly he needs here. We do have the list here, so let's actually take a look on what Baker could potentially draw. I mean, the Horseman can take out something. You do see the Hercules there, and the Hercules is just not going to be what he needs in this specific spot. Didn't really have, I think, the heroes either way to really be able to use this effectively. Baker saying, hey, it's not over. If I'm able to remove stuff on your board here, I'm trying to see if it's possible. But there's two characters that are just ready right now, and you can't interact with them. It's game one, though. It's game one. There's still room for misplays. There's room for error because it's a best of 3 format right now. For those of you at home who are just tuning in, welcome to the LCCC round 3. We have Lorcana Villain versus Zan. Sorry, let me backtrack that. We're playing best of 3 LCCC round 3. Lorcana Villain versus Zan. Need some water, my throat's getting a little dry. And we do have Zan here on AmethystSapphire, aka Blurple, and Baker with Ruby Amethyst. Game 1. This is still game 1. So Baker finally deciding to make a move here, do some challenging, and now we have that Mother Gothel using her effect to be able to move some damage on the board. Okay, so we do see here deciding if he wants what he wants to do with those. How much lore does Baker have? Baker has, I got that for you. Oops, wrong card. Baker has 5 lore. Baker only has 5 lore. So the lore on the screen is the red and blue, and the ink are the colorful potion jars alongside that. So Baker making another challenge, moving some stuff around, trying to clean up this board as much as possible. Technically speaking, that Mother Gothel is putting in a lot of work. You are able to move those damage counters onto ready characters. And if there's damage on the character that turns that willpower to 0, that character is banished. So here, doing more math, moving more damage counters around. No room for misplays at this point. Able to remove the Hades and the Elsa. Taking in more trades here. Things are flying off the board. Zan down with 3 characters left on the board. And 1 card in hand. So even best case scenario where Lorcana Villain is able to remove everything on the board, Zan's still going to have 1 card in hand and he's going to draw another card. So 2 other cards that you have to potentially deal with. I do love here that Baker has just everything he needs to be able to clean up the board. But now there is nothing left to attack, and I do like here that Baker is showing what he could do in this spot. Played it out all the way to the end. And we do have here Zan with game 1. Let's just break down these lists real quick. So yes, Zan on Blurple and Lorcana Villain on Ruby Amethyst. 2 very strong decks. Again, we've seen these Amethyst colors do what they do. Refill your hand. They're evasive. And then you have these supporting colors. 2 very strong decks. It really just comes down to who has the answers they need. And I guess in this one specific scenario in game 1, it really was who had the Cheshire Cat. Both players had those cats. Both players were moving damage around to be able to trade more. Looks like we have our shufflings done. And Zan's just shuffling his deck, cutting his deck up. We do see here Villain have a pretty nice curve with the 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly what you need when you're on the play. You're going to want to be able to put all this low pressure on the board. All gas, no brakes. Now you're going to have to force Zan to be the one to work for it. You're going to have to put Zan to make his brain start thinking, start grinding the gears, what he needs to do to be able to challenge Mr. Villain's characters, because Villain's game plan right now is just going to be able to turn everything sideways. You want to get as much lower pressure as you can before these Elsas come down, before these Hades come down. We do see here Zan thinking what he wants to send back. You can't ask for more. You have the turn 1 develop to be able to help filter your hand. You have the turn 2 T-Bow. You have the turn 3 Cat. And you have the Hades for your 5th ink turn. But since you are a ramp deck, you could play this Hades on your turn 4. The ramp strategy is just super, super strong in Sapphire. So if I'm Zan, I'm thinking, okay, I know Villain is out here for revenge. He's going to want to put as much low pressure as he can on the board. I'm hoping he doesn't have a turn 1 Palace guard, because I'm not going to be able to answer that effectively. And I hope he doesn't have a Diablo. But we know that he does have that. And just in case for you guys are wondering, hey, why is Zan or why is Villain showing their cards to each other? They're actually not. This is being played on Pixelborn. It's a free download. Has multiple games you can play, multiple TCGs you can play. Recommend checking it out. These players have the blue line. It actually, underneath the blue line, is actually covered, so they cannot see each other's hands. The viewers can't back home. So we do see here that Mulan going to the Inkwell and slamming down that Palace guard, saying, alright, buddy, give me the 4-5 lore you did last turn. So Zan actually inking the develop. Oh, and after the mulligan, he drew the Rafiki. Best card defensively you could have on the draw. That's what they're there for in the deck. You want to see these 1-drops to stop your opponent from gaining lore. And to be able to knock out that Diablo and banish it in a challenge is going to be huge for Zan. He's not going to have to worry about that overwhelming lore pressure in the beginning. Although that Palace guard is going to be on the board for a minute and get some lore, at least it's not getting 2 lore a turn. So Zan here draws SL the Azurite Sea. So I actually got this question earlier. Hey, create. I see in your Sapphire Steel videos, sometimes you choose to go Tipo, sometimes you choose to go Sail. Why do you choose one over the other? A very good question. So, Tipo is going to help you with 2 obvious things. One, if your hand's getting full of uninkables, you can ink an uninkable card from your hand and clean it up. Number 2, Tipo allows you to have an extra body on the board, and you get to challenge something with Tipo. That 1, strength, comboing that with Rafiki, for example, could take out anything with 4 willpower, anything with 1 willpower. So Tipo, very nice to help contest the board. Versus Cell, well, Cell does not give you a character on the board, but it actually draws you a card. You get to draw a card, and you still have to ink for turn, but you get to draw that extra card. So it really just depends. Also, if you have another card you could play along with that Cell the Azurite Sea, because if you do ink off Cell, unlike Tipo, you can still use that 1 ink. So if you have another 1-cost card that you can use in your hand, that's also a very nice way to go. I think here, though, he decided to play the Tipo over the Cell because there is a world where he might want to Tipo and Rafiki take out the Palace guard, or Tipo plus something else take out another card. You have a couple options here. You either want to play the Genie, sorry, you can't play the Genie, the Cheshire Cat or another Diablo. Demona is probably going to have to go into the Inkwell. It's your only inkable card, so you're going to have to slam down this Cats to be able to just still develop the board. I mean, you could ink the cat and just play another Diablo, which I guess is fine because if you know that your Diablo is going to get traded into back with the Rafiki, you have another card that can still gain you that 2 lore. So very strong there, very hard decision. You don't want to ink the Demona because you want to be able to still curve out with 4, 5, 6 ink and refill your hand. So as long as Baker draws an inkable next turn, he should be fine and his game plan can continue with going on curve. So here, Zan, you're going to decide to double ramp, does not want to play the Cheshire Cat. He wants to be able to accelerate his ink and get to his big characters faster. And now he does ink a cat. He has multiple cats in his hand. Inks a guidebook as well because you want to play into your opponent's cards and their strategy. So Zan might be thinking, hey, there's going to be a point in the game where you're going to run out of resources and you're going to play that Demona. Although he does have a second guidebook in his hand, he still might be considering the fact that, I think Baker, if he does have that Demona and decides to play it, he's going to refill my hand too, so there might not be need to have these extra guidebooks in the hand. So we do see here Baker draw. I'm pretty sure that Ursula is inkable. Let's go ahead and make sure. Bottom left side of the screen, bottom corner is going to be the list here on the board. Yeah, so it is inkable. Inks away that Ursula. And now he can decide to play that genie, draw a card, and continue this lore pressure. I do like the fact that Zan also with that sell, it does enable you to ink a card and still play another character with 3 costs. That's with 3 ink available, so he was able to play that Cheshire Cat as well. So not only did he get to ramp, but he got to develop a character on the board. So we do see here a genie being played, and no questing happening. He says, hey, you know what? I can't afford you to take out my characters because I need these characters to challenge back to you. Very unfortunate that the cat, look how powerful this cat is. It just shuts down Villain's game plan of just going sideways. The Rafiki already stopped 2 lore that he could have gained. And now the cat is effectively stopping another 3 lore. And now Zan saying, awesome, this is the pause. This is the pause I needed. This is the break I needed to be able to catch up, to be able to put more characters out on the board. So we do see that Hades coming down, and he's saying, hey, let's make a deal. The thing is, though, you do not want to make a deal with this Mr. Hades because Baker, if he does remove one of his characters on the board, Zan's going to be able to draw 2 cards. And you do not want to give your opponent 2 cards at this point in the game, right? When you're trying to make sure you have what you need. You could punish him. Not necessarily punish him, but you wouldn't mind if he draws cards if you had that Demona. But Zan hasn't inked for turn here, so he has 2 cards in his hand. Baker might be thinking, hey, there's a scenario where this guy has 2 uninkables. If I can give him more cards, he's able to ink. He could have 2 bad cards, could give him 2 bad cards, he could get 2 good cards. So you really have to decide. And I think the decision when it comes down to is, do you want to give your opponent the 2 cards, or if you want to keep your character on the board, is can I afford to lose this character? Can I afford to lose this tempo? And the question is here is, I don't think you can. I don't think right now you can afford to lose a character on the board because your opponent's board's getting wider. And you need to be able to contest back. So Zan here saying, thank you for the deal, thank you for the cards, but that's all I can do from now, passing back to you. Baker here now does have that Horseman. Unfortunately, you can't lower the strength on any of your opponent's cards. There's no Sapphire coils here. So that Horseman is only going to be able to take out that Tipo. And you can't challenge into anything else to get the Horseman's second effect bonus. So very unfortunate there. But going to slam it down either way. Hey, let me remove your Tipo on the board and put more lore pressure as well. This Hades and this cat can just challenge the board. I do like the fact that the genie has evasive, so Villain is going to be able to get 2 lores safely. Worst case scenario, your opponent has Elsa, and he Elsa's, attacks your genie, Cheshire Cat, activate the effect, punish you. But at this point, you have to just say, if you have it, you have it, right? You can't afford Zan to be on this pause, like where you're trying to slow. Like that's what Zan needs when you're on the draw and your opponent's going, let me just slow it down a bit. That's what you want to see, and you can't afford to do that. So Zan's saying, all right, here's cool, another Cheshire Cat. I have a genie. Your genie might be able to live for another turn and get you another 2 lore. Now Zan's here thinking, okay, what can I do here? And I think you want to have a couple more options. I think having a Hades here would have been super solid to be able to remove something clean. That guidebook, as I mentioned, could come down. It is something to consider that Villain is going to be at 6 ink next turn because he just played that Horseman. Yeah, so he's at 5 ink right now, so that Demonic could come down next turn. Might not want to activate the guidebook because you're going to get cards either way. Yeah, decides to play this cell and slamming down that cat. Yeah, just being able to double spell, and what double spell means is just being able to play 2 cards in 1 turn. And we see here Villain saying, oh no, another cat. It was tough to play around 1, now I got to play around 2. So now, with that genie being established on Zan's side, Villain can't safely quest with that genie anymore. And all this momentum that Villain had being on the play, having this lore pressure, it's all gone. But we do see here the Demona finally come down here. And this is going to be awesome because the Demona is going to force Zan to exert every character on his board. When with that Horseman's second ability, giving a +1 challenge to all your other characters when a character is banished on the board, it's going to be nice to make some trades here. And having 2 cats now on the board, potentially both getting removed, is huge because that's what kind of stops you from questing. So now you for sure have to enter at least the genie, because if you enter the genie, your genie can keep questing. But you're going to have to take out 2 characters. So the question is how do you do it? The problem is here is everything has 4 +1 plus everything has 4 willpower pretty much. And everything on Baker's board outside of the Horseman has 4 strength. And the Horseman's extra effect is what gives the +1 challenge to everything. So now here, Baker can't really effectively trade into anything. He could trade into 1 cat, give +1, Palace Guard, trade into another cat. Oh, I mean, take out, I mean, you're just, at this point, trading all your stuff into these characters. And I think you have to do it because you're going to be able to remove everything, pretty much. You're going to be able to remove the genie, you're going to be able to remove the cat, and you have a Demona on your board. So actually, this is looking, although you are sacrificing, trading in some characters on your board to remove stuff on your opponents, you're getting a way better outcome of it because your stuff, you have more characters on the board now. So Baker deciding how he wants to do this. I mean, you have to at this point. You just have to trade into the genie, and now the genie can take out the other genie just because of all the damage that, well, all the +1 stats. So Horseman gets traded into, and the genie should be able to take out the other genie unless I didn't, pretty sure that's how this works. Yeah, and you take out the genie. You still take 2 damage counters on it, but it's fine. You were able to enter the whole board. You left yourself with 3 characters, and now you're telling Zan, all right, what's the best you can do here? And the best thing Zan can do here is remove something, because now Villain, the Hades is gonna be able to challenge the Palace Guard, but now Villain's gonna gain 4 lore. He's gonna gain 4 lore next turn, and now that's already halfway for him to reach the story, right? And he is able to double spell next turn if he wanted to. He could draw, ink something, and play the, actually he doesn't have to ink anything. He can play the Diablo and the Demona, or he can play Demona and the Lumiere and the Diablo. So definitely going to come down, 2 characters are going to come down next turn. Ooh, we do see that Ink Runner, and that Ink Runner has just, Zan is just known to see this Ink Runner every single time he needs it. I don't know how many times I've been watching a game and I see Zan draw into that Ink Runner. It's actually crazy. That Ink Runner is going to give one of your characters alert, and you're able to basically challenge evasive characters. It's a super clutch card that he was able to draw, because now he can just answer that genie this turn. It just costs 1 ink to turn the ink runner sideways to be able to activate it to give your character that boost. So Zan, again, having the answer he needs to stop this lore gaining. Very unfortunate that he just had the card he needed. And now Zan has his own Demona in hand. Also has a Bassel he can slam down to help contest the board, because you want to be able to one-shot that Demona. And now Zan passes back to Lorcana Villain. Again, for you guys tuning in, we do have another match tonight on my channel, 10 p.m., 5 hours from now. Diago versus Ed. You don't want to miss it. And we also have some more matches, actually, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that as well. So now, Lorcana Villain, his turn, draws a Sisu. Not quite the card you wanted to see in this spot, for sure. I guess it's fine because it does put that more lore pressure. So if you wanted to go Sisu and Diablo, you know, you put 4 lore on the board, that's fine. You're turning your stuff to 9 lore. So it does ink that Demona. It's a little bit too slow right now. Not the card that you need exactly in this matchup. Definitely helps with trades with the Cheshire Cat, having just this damage on these characters. So we see the Sisu come down. And now I'm intrigued to see, yeah, the Lumiere comes down. And I do like this because now this makes it to where the Palace Guard can trade into the opposing Hades. That Palace Guard stuck around, but unfortunately, it did its job. And it's time for that Palace Guard to go to the discard. And he was able to just triple spell. Now, unfortunately for Baker, he's thinking, man, if Zan has Demona here, I'm going to plus. But Zan has the guidebook. So Zan can still draw cards without having to play the Demona, and he draws another filter. So here, he could filter, potentially find a 7 uninkable Hades, drop that down, and slow the Lord. But right now, Baker is threatening 2, 4, 6, 7 lore on the board, no cards in hand. Zan here cannot put that Demona down. He needs to be able to answer stuff without having to give Baker more cards in his hand. Again, shout out to the viewers back home. Don't mind me, I'm going to take a sip of my water. Let's get some hype in the chat. Get those hype emotes going. Crazy game. Game 2, we do have Zan here on the right. Did take down game 1 against Lorcana Villain. I'll make sure tonight's stream to add in win counters, so that way if you're just tuning in, you don't have to ask who took game 1. So we do see here Zan inking, playing a Hades, putting his hand out and saying, hey, let's make another deal. Give me 2 cards or send one of your characters to the bottom of the deck. Ah, what a bad deal. Me personally, I only take deals that I plus. If I can get the plus, if I can get the benefit. Baker says, go ahead, draw your 2 cards. I'm not in a position, I cannot afford to lose tempo here. Maybe if it was just Hades and I had like 5 characters on board, 4 characters on board, sure. Because in this spot you do, but you're trying to close out the game as fast as possible. And that 2 lore is just huge. So Zan is still able to just draw cards without having to give Baker cards. Like, what more could you ask? And has another Dumbo with the develop, still filtering. And he does see that into the unknown. That is the fastest decision I've ever seen. The only faster decision I've ever seen is me grabbing a Goliath off of Visions of the Future when I have 0 hand playing Sapphire Steel. And that Demona says, hey buddy, I do not need this Demona. I'm going to force you to top deck because I have ways to answer. I have ways to draw cards. I have ways to remove things. Zan just seeing everything he needs to counteract Lorcana Villain's strategy. He still gets to draw. Still gets to draw 1 card, and he does have 5 lore on board, but he has no hand in that Demona. We do need a top deck Demona here, and that is a 1 card we did not want to see. It is a Rafiki, and Zan next turn is going to be able to draw 4 cards. 2 off the guidebook, 1 for turn, and 1 off that Dumbo. If I'm Baker right now, I'm going to start sweating here. Because Zan was able to just contest the Lord. And Baker just not there yet to be able to close it out. That Rafiki is probably the worst case scenario of what you wanted to see here, to be honest with you. At this point, the only thing you could do is just quest. You don't even want to get rid of the Lumiere because it's giving +1 to your characters, 1+ strength. So that does mess around with the challenging and the trades. And a Tamatoa, oh my gosh, she could use that guidebook, get back the guidebook with Tamatoa, replay the guidebook, ink the Dumbo, activate the guidebook. What a crazy, crazy combo there. You can draw so many cards. I think you definitely ink the Dumbo there. And just slam down this Tamatoa, get back that guidebook. So both these characters, all characters on Zan's board can trade into either of these characters. Because the Basil can, well actually never mind. The Basil can support one character and attack into the Sisu. Or the Diablo. Probably the Sisu because they both have the same strength. Well, if you play a card down, Sisu will deal less damage to your character. So the Basil can support one. But the other character, your Genie and your Hades, oh yeah, the Hades can take out the Diablo, and then you can give support to the Genie, and you can trade into the Sisu without having to worry about it getting traded into. And Zan choosing to activate Guidebook, draw some cards. Man, this Amethyst deck, just being able to draw cards, draw cards, draw cards. What more could you ask for? It's just such a like Amethyst is just so strong right now. I wonder what you guys' thoughts back home on is. Do you think Amethyst needs a hit, needs a nerf? There's just so many strong, powerful cards that Amethyst has in its tools to be able to combat the board. So Zan making a different play, still saying, "Hey, I'm drawing cards. It's not the way you want me to draw cards. It's gonna be the worst way you want me to draw cards because I'm forcing you to make a bad deal." You know, I might have to just pick up Lurple. Lurple just seems super consistent. You just have so many different ways to play offensively and defensively. I think Into the Unknown is such a powerful card as well, just to help you clean up opponents' boards, using it with other characters to sing, not losing tempo. And then we do see that Dumbo come down. So Zan did a completely 380 on what I thought he was going to do originally. But as he kept drawing, more paths opened up, more different lines of play opened up, and he adapted, he maneuvered, and decided this was the best course of action. He was able to develop his board, still draw cards, and remove something with that Into the Unknown. And the Hades here will trade into Diablo happily because that Hades will get to survive. Actually, never mind. The Lumiere is there, so this trade still. And Baker left with just 2 1-drops. Or 1 Morphiki, 1 Lumiere. And he still activated Dumbo's effect. Crazy. We need a Demona here, and we do not see a Demona. We see the worst case scenario, 2 1-cost characters come down, and unfortunately, you know, Zan still has a way to go, but this is basically a turn 3 clock on Zan's side. Everything here on Villain's board can just get traded into. I'm not one to call it quits early, but unfortunately here, it's not looking too good for Mr. Lorcana Villain. Zan just pretty much had everything he needed to be able to combat and fight back. And he's thinking here, I mean, do I quest here? Do I trade? Do I just remove things? At this point, I mean, I would say just quest out. You just need to quest out and hope that you top deck a Demona and you can just put enough pressure on the board. You could decide to trade here, but I mean, what does it really do for you, right? You're still not gaining lore. You basically didn't do anything. And I know he's in a hard spot either way, so it's not like there's much you could do here. We do see here Baker basically saying, I have no cards in hand. Very unfortunate that he inked that Demona. I think if you run it back, I think he had to ink it. If he didn't have to ink it, then I definitely think that was a misplay on his end. Because just in general, you can apply this to any deck. You have to be careful inking away your draw cards, your draw engines, because that's what you need to be able to stay in the game. And especially a deck like Ruby Amethyst, where the main strategy is apply a bunch of lore pressure early on. You need to be able to refill your hand. If you don't refill your hand, you're going to get just outgassed pretty much about your opponent. So Villain takes a trade, passes back, and now Zan here. So many things to decide how he wants to do this. He could play the Dumbo, get a draw. He could play the Tamatoa, get back Guidebook, activate Guidebook. There's so many different lines here that are available to him. He could ink for turn going to 11, so 6 plus 3 plus the guidebook, that's 12. So I don't think he can do all of that. We do see all these elephants, a parade of elephants coming down, saying, hey, I already have enough Dumbos. I already have enough stuff on my board. So we do see a couple of things going to the inkwell. And Zan just saying, hey, I have everything I need here in this spot. I can out-resource you at this point for days. Gets back that guidebook. And I think it's all he has. Doesn't have another one. Man, I wish that guidebook was a Sapphire card. I'm pretty sure chat would agree with me. Maybe, maybe not. No? Did Amethyst really need more draw cards? That guidebook should have been a Sapphire card. Like, come on. I think we all know it. So, Zan turning everything sideways, saying, your go. Chat disagrees? Oh my gosh. You guys did not want Sapphire Steel to have guidebook. And we do see a card here that's basically going to allow to give +2 challenger and be able to draw a card. Let's see Demona here. You need Demona here. And another 1-drop. 4 1-drops, 3 1-drops in a row. Just not what Baker needs in this spot. This is very painful to watch here. He doesn't have what he needs to be able to come back in the game. He just ran out of gas. Even if he would have had that Demona would have drawn him these 3 weak cards. So really hard to say that even if he did have that Demona, it would have made much of a difference. Mulan going for a trade. It's all he can do here is try to slow Zan down. Zan has 2, 4, 6 lore on board. At this point, you just turn everything sideways. Gets a quest for 2. Play that guidebook for free. Gets to activate guidebook for 1 ink. Draw 2 cards. Oh, we do see Lorcana Villain. Did top deck a Be Prepared. This is insane. This actually might be the craziest play to end the year 2025. Chat, let's get some hype in the chat. We do have here a Be Prepared that's going to come down next turn. And that will effectively end the game because Villain will lose because you cannot play Be Prepared in this format. So either way, that Be Prepared is going to come down and it will end the game one way or another. And Zan here is just pretty much letting out everything he has in his barrel. Turning everything sideways. What an unfortunate end here. Lorcana Villain was on the play, but Zan had all the answers to Lorcana Villain's early lore. Stopped Baker from getting that lore early on. Basically shutting down his whole game plan, the advantage that this deck had. And then not having a draw card, Villain just wasn't able to refuel and put on the gas, continuing that pressure. A Sisu comes down. And let's see here. For you, Baker, I will try to do it my best. I will try to mimic it. I will try to do my best. Be prepared. Be prepared comes down. Lorcana Villain gets DQ'd. And Zan takes it down. It was super crazy to see Villain play that Be Prepared at the end. Exactly what I was asking Chad that he needed.
Exactly. It was the you play to your outs, right?
No, but that was an awesome game, guys. Thank you. First, I want to say thank you for showing up, being a part of the LCCC. It was such an awesome game for the viewers back home. I was super hyped to see pretty much these 2 Amethyst decks go back at it. You guys are basically doing the same thing when it comes to the purple cards. But Zan just felt like he had way more consistency, a little bit more removal tools, where Baker, your game plan felt like a little bit more early on lore. So what a crazy game. Unfortunate that you couldn't take it there on the play. There were a couple of, I think, misplays. I want to say misplays, but maybe things you could have done better. Anything in that game, Villain, that you think you could have done better in either of those 2 games?
Okay, so for game 2, just to clarify, by the time we got to that last point of the game when I was putting drawing 1-drops off the top, and like just playing a Rafiki and things like that, me and Zan were having a laugh. Like, I could have left the Rafiki because the Lumiere was still there to check the Hades, but I decided to hit the Basil purely for a joke, and I was telling off Zan because he calls it Basil and not Basil, and everyone knows I get annoyed at this. So I was like, I feel like I've already lost this game. Let's have a bit of fun. So those last couple of moves, I hope you won't judge me too much for. I feel like the game was over, and I was just like, let's have some fun. So I hope those particular moves you won't take against me too much. The more important ones, so. There was, I think this was in game one, where I decided, it was game one, where I decided to just go for broke with the second Mother Gothel to create. Apparently, I decided I wanted to turn my brain on. Wasn't originally the plan because I had 12 ink and I had Genie, Demona, and Lumiere. And in my head, I was going to go Genie, Lumiere, Demona. That was the play in my head. But I played Genie and I found the Gothel. Which meant that I could instead ink the Demona and play the Gothel and the Lumiere. Now, I don't think that was necessarily the better play, to be honest, but I thought I was already behind. There was perhaps a chance. If I'd have taken that other line, then the match definitely... I'm not saying the end result would have changed, but it would have taken a different line of where it went from there. But I thought, okay, I feel like I'm already losing this game. I've just drawn this 7 Gothel. I can do a bunch of shenanigans here by just going for broke, putting it all down. I can put this Lumiere in this Gothel. That means I've got 2 Gothels. And I think there were 2 challenges I could make across that turn, which was still significant to move damage around like twice per Gothel trigger. So yeah, I don't think the line I took was necessarily the better play, but I thought it would be the more entertaining play, and I felt like I had already lost the game by that point. Please don't mistake me. I'm not saying like I didn't try, because I absolutely did. I just felt like by that point I was too far behind. Let's go for a more interesting play, show off these Gothels a little bit, and like see what sort of shenanigans I can take. So that was kind of my thought trail there. I will admit also though, when I went for broke to make that play, I then completely forgot about the Lumiere on the board, and I was doing all the Gothel math in my head, and then I made a challenge, and then Zan was like, yeah, no, it takes this because of Lumiere, and I was like, oh yeah, that absolutely changed it. I definitely could have got maybe at least one more character off the board with that turn. I think I could have taken the Cheshire Cat. Again, Zan was already pretty close to game by this point, so I was just going for style points more than anything, to be honest with you, Cree. But yeah, those were 2 turns that were like definitely not executed to perfection. 1, because I forgot about my own Lumiere, and 2, I would definitely agree that it would have been better to just take the Demona line, but I went with the Gothel instead. Game 2, there's definitely potential that it was wrong for me to, on turn 3, ink the Cheshire Cat and play the Diablo, but as I'm sure as you can imagine, with that hand, my only ink at that point was the Cheshire Cat and the Demona, so it would have meant inking the Demona, which was my only ink for the turn, and putting down the 3-drop, which then takes away my Demona for what was otherwise a pretty perfect curve. I had the Genie. I'd given up the Horseman in the altar just because I didn't want to hold on to 3 uninkables. I'm playing 13, so I wanted to kind of play it a little bit safe. So yeah, it could have been right. I could have just played into the Demona, played the Cheshire Cat, and then just prayed for ink next turn to get the Genie. But if I do miss ink that turn, then it's over. Like I have nothing to play on for. So I felt like ink Cheshire and play the Diablo was safer, because it meant next turn either I find ink, great, I get to keep my Demona and play Genie, or I miss ink, okay, good job, I played it safe, I'll ink this Demona and play the Genie. So I'm not sure. I'm quite happy with the Diablo playing on the turn 3 instead of Cheshire. I think it was the right choice. I can understand why people might disagree. But those are the main ones that jump out for me immediately.
Oh, thank you for the explanation. A lot of the viewers were asking, and I definitely do thank you for that, because me being a Sapphire Steel player, I think that I think a lot with my lines. But once you have those Mother Gothels, once you have those Lumières, it was super exciting, and as a viewer, just to see how all the interactions that you were thinking about, moving all those damage counters. So I do thank you for showing how spicy this Ruby Amethyst list is. Now, Zan, for you, you just basically showed up and said, hey, on the play, on the draw, it doesn't matter. My deck has all the tools it needs to be able to combat. And I do think you definitely got a little bit favored there, seeing all the Cheshire Cats when you needed them. I just want to talk to you about the Blurple list. It seems you made some changes last week. Right now, Blurple is looking like in a really good spot in the meta right now. I just want to know your thoughts on this list in particular, and what made you decide to run him back with Blurple.
Oh, I thought I have to play purple.
Oh, I'm not sorry. I'm not 100%
Oh,
sure of the
oh yeah, yeah. So
rules.
yeah, so I have to play Blurple because that's what I submitted originally, and the reasoning for that was Purple Steel. I believe that most of the people in this tournament were going to play Purple Steel, so I was like, okay, why don't I? At the time, I didn't think Blurple was well positioned, but what I thought it was well positioned for this tournament. So I was like, oh, let me go on a journey to figure out against some of the best players in the world how to build a good Blurple deck. And so basically, after when I lost round one to Bradley, I was like, oh, I understand which direction Purple Steel is headed and how to adjust from there. And so then I I think I won all my games with this version, and I didn't even resubmit a new version after my first submission after week one. So I feel really great about the list. I will say, um, just before I forget, um, Baker, there was a really interesting turn in game two. Do you remember when you had four characters? Um, this was the turn you played the Demona. Um,
Carry on.
yeah, so essentially the first thing you should have taken out was my Cheshire cat using oh no, never mind. Never mind.
Do you
Um
mean
I,
when I put my Diablo into the Cheshire and then the Palace guard to get a horseman a
no,
gathering
never mind.
strength trigger,
You did
and
that
then not
all.
that one?
Yeah, you did that one correct. Yeah, I was more so thinking about another situation. Anyways, yeah, the main situation was if you keep the Demona in your hand at the end of the first game and just ink the Lumiere, you can wipe out the same amount of things. Hence the way that you were doing the math in the first place without the Lumiere, and basically you you get to wipe my board, quest with the whole team, and get to see how many threats I'm able to put out. And that Demona,
Mhm.
you had a very high chance of just winning while I was at 19 because you wipe my board, and as if you either hit another Demona or like Elsa, and I'm not able to produce two different threats, you just win. You straight up win the game. And
Yeah, no,
yeah,
for sure. I can see that have been like maybe the throw of that, and I
in
will definitely look forward to watching it
in
back as well.
in game two, you played absolutely perfectly. I think that the card that has been creating the most amount of disruptions, and I think that more people should be playing a one of, is what is it called? Ink Runner. Because me being able to take out
Yeah,
that genie in that specific spot,
yeah, I was scared of the Ink Runner.
it was insane. It was insane. Like if I didn't play the Ink Runner in that spot, then I wouldn't have been able to remove that genie, and that genie was representing minimum like four more lore, which
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
those
for
one
sure.
drops good
You
enough
inked it
for you
game
to.
one. Yeah, because you inked
Yes.
it because obviously as soon as you know you're playing, you check what their latest list was, right? So I
Yep.
knew that you'd played it before, and I also knew that you hadn't been making a lot of changes to your list between weeks.
Hmm.
So I thought maybe you might keep it just to the one count because that's what you played last time as well. I think just one. So when you inked
Exactly.
it, I was aware of how big that was because obviously of my evasive package.
Yeah.
Obviously
I
we were able to
actually
get it
took it
game
with the
two.
develop. I took it with the develop, and I was like, I don't want to ink this unless I absolutely have to. And then I drew the
Sure,
sale in
sure.
order to be able to play the Cheshire Cat, and I was like, I have to let it go. Even though I want this
Yeah,
card so
yeah,
bad,
yeah.
I have to let it go. And that was the difference because when it came time to you playing the Demona, I was able to take advantage of it. Whereas if I
Yeah.
had been more greedy with keeping the Ink Runner and just playing a slower game plan, the Demona would have just eaten my face.
Man, that was yeah,
No,
no,
it's
that
interesting.
was
I'm
great.
looking forward. I'm looking forward to watching it back. Just as a note as well, though, just for context, this list was very much built, edging my bets towards hoping I was going to pair into either Aiden or Luke. Because obviously you look at the bracket, right? Not everyone gets paired. Some people get paired up and down, but looking at the bracket and how many people from EU versus NA were on 1-1, I knew I would definitely pair into a 1-1 because of the disparity. And I wondered if there was more likelihood that I would pair into someone that won, same as me, won the first round and lost the second round, which is both Luke and Aiden. Whereas Zan, if I remember correctly, you lost round 1 and won round 2. Is that right?
Yep, that's perfect.
Yeah. So again, I wasn't sure if that would be a thing, but I was like, okay, these are the people that have the same record of me and hit them at the same time. So that's why I went with a Gothel heavy build, and also why I'm playing like Moana instead of Iago, because I was expecting Aiden's been playing a lot of like Iago hate, so that was why the Moana came into the list. The Gothels are really good into they're good in the mirror, to be honest, because you have a lot of floating sitting damage between cats and Diablos and stuff like that, so Gothels can be pretty interesting for a mirror match. And against Amber Steel, the list that Luke is on with like the Stitches and all the little guys, Gothel I think would absolutely eat that deck. Again, Luke's a better player than me, so it would still be a match, I dare say, but I fancied my chances in that matchup with the Gothel. As it turned out, I paired into the Blurple, where you like, we saw one turn where I was doing things incorrectly with Gothel, but it's not really for this matchup. And my 1-drops aren't really situated for this matchup either. Again, like the Mulans obviously go with the Gothels. I went with Rafiki in case I paired into Luke so that I could take out his Auroras without being banished. Otherwise, I would play Tinkerbell in that spot to hit for 3. But yeah, this deck was more built towards hoping I'd pair into one of those two. But that being said,
I loved it. As soon as I saw you playing the Gothel, I was like, "Oh, this is sick. This is so smart." It's so unfortunate you got paired against me.
Yeah. Because some of these cards aren't for you, right? But them's the breaks. I do still have cards that are good in this matchup, like the Horseman. But like Zan did, one thing that I would there's a lot of things Zan did very well there. But one thing that I super was aware of was how well he was playing around the Horseman, like putting Dumbos out on his 4-ink turn, things like that, and waiting for me to like basically play the Horseman into his like Tipo or something, just because I've got to play it because I've got to empty my hand. Plus, if I want to play Demona on a following turn, I want those like gathering strength triggers. So yeah, super respect to Zan for just like knowing how to pilot this matchup really, really well, and obviously Zan's amazing, so no shame. I would have liked to have gotten on the board, but them's the breaks. I think my bracket has been probably one of the hardest of anyone, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to like have these matchups with these incredible players. It's hopefully going to make me a better player and a better caster for like these top matches. So very, very grateful to be involved. I'm very thankful to Zan for the matches. Create, thank you for hosting, especially on your own. That's no easy feat to cast matches on your own, so fair play to you. Thank you for John for not immediately disqualifying me when I decided pocket prep. And yeah, I had a lot of fun. And hey, next time I'm going to get him. And that's it.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
There you go.
I do appreciate you guys for that game. Like you said, Baker, I was casting by myself, but it's easy to do it when you're being entertained and you guys put on a show. So thank you guys so much. Don't want to take up too much of your time already. You guys pretty much broke down and answered the questions I was going to ask you guys. Super nice to hear you guys in detail, especially with your guys' caliber level as a player. So just to end it off, we are playing for charity. So just in case for the viewers at home or just in case people who are tuning in aren't aware, I'm just going to go ahead and ask you guys about the charity that you guys picked. And if you want to give any shout outs just to close it off, go ahead, Zan. I'll let you start it off.
Yeah, my charity is mainly to get aid to Gaza. Some horrific stuff happening over there, and I hope for things to turn around. Thank you so much, Rare Hunter Shop. Without the sponsor, travel and going to all these Lorcana tournaments would not be possible. They're honestly the best sponsor in the world. I mean, they sent me to Singapore and China, and I just feel such a amazing bond with this team. I got to go spend time with them in Austria. So, really, really, really thank you so much, Rare Hunter Shop. Besides that, thank you to the judges, John, Pavel, obviously, you yourself, and Lorcana Villain for being such a amazing, entertaining, competitive opponent.
Awesome. Very kind words. Also, shout out to Monstro and congrats on your CCQ and your invite to the NA Continentals. Hopefully for a Monstro ban.
Yeah,
But Baker,
thank you.
go ahead and close it out. Your shout outs and your charity, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. For a start, I like half of me wishes he was playing the Monstro deck because that deck I did actually beat yesterday. Maybe I wouldn't have if piloted by Zan, but nonetheless, that would have been a lot of fun. But yeah, shout out to Zan for taking that home and giving us all something interesting to talk about for sure. My charity is Calm, the campaign against living miserably. This is a mental health focused charity for anyone and everyone, but they do put an emphasis on trying to offer support and encouragement for men to speak out about the mental health issues that they can have and speak out and fight against the stigma that exists in society where men can struggle to open up about how they're feeling and things that are maybe, you know, getting them down in life. So there's definitely an emphasis on trying to promote men to do those sort of things and help them with the mental health and just help everyone just be a little happier and friendlier and just enjoy life a little bit more. So that's my charity. Shout out again, as mentioned, to everyone. Shout out to Pavel and the entire Pixelborn team for organizing these events. They're great for the community and very grateful for to get to play in this one. It's a fantastic opportunity for me. As a competitor, as someone that likes to think I take the competitive side of the game very seriously, but also my passion and my main job is casting, and like these experiences should make me a better caster. So I'm thankful for that. Thank you, Create, again for hosting and doing it all on your own. I hope you had fun and I appreciate it. Thank you to Zan for being a top-notch opponent and a lot of fun and a wonderful guy who I look forward to working with more in the future. There might be a piece of content with Zan and Jeremy on the channel before the end of the month, so a little teaser for that to look forward to. And yeah, shout out to the audience, everyone that comes along to these matches. It's great to have an audience for these. It's great to have an LC3. I think it's a fantastic thing for the community to have. So yeah, that's it. You can find me at Lorcana Villain if you don't know, now you know.